There are some rather unpleasant and ignorant people who think they can use the unrest in France as an opportunity to just blame migrants and Africans and so on. But you see, in the French system, whether you are green, black, Buddhist, Muslim, is irrelevant because you are considered French for centuries. What did France tell Algerians? You are French. And they even annexed Algeria. You live in the center of Paris, you live in the banlieue, you're French. Africans and Arabs whose grandparents even fought in the French army in World War I and World War II, they are French. So there's no distinction here except in the minds of racists and extremists. And when the football team, which is full of Africans and Muslims, wins the World Cup, I don't hear them complaining then. Now, this doesn't mean that you can just forget history and colonialism, because France was built with the blood of Algerians. Its banks are filled with Mali's gold. Its homes are powered by Niger's uranium. Do you really believe that half of France is on fire right now because of some migrants? This entire issue was sparked by the police. They shot dead a 17-year-old boy and then lied about it. That is insanity. That is cruelty. And back in 2005, people also rioted. Why? Because the police again killed 2 teenage boys. These incidents just keep on happening, but this time it was captured on video, and that's why people are fuming. But Macron goes to his Elton John concert, and then he blames video games for the protests. Video games! Maybe his police officers play too many video games, and that's why they pulled out their guns on a 17-year-old without a driver's license, and one of them said, "I'm going to put a bullet in your head." Macron now wants to ban sensitive content on social media because it's embarrassing for him. But dare Iran ban Twitter or Egypt cut off the internet, then Macron and the West will spring into their usual chorus of that's censorship and that's a dictatorship, no freedom of speech. If these images were coming out of Syria or Iran, the French president would be saying, "Step down, and Assad has to go. You're committing violence against your own citizens. You have no legitimacy." Do you think anyone in Brussels or Washington is going to say that to Macron and tell him to step down? Just 3 years ago, when he visited Lebanon, his advice to them was that you can't make people revolt. They just choose to revolt by themselves. Well, then maybe that's the case in France. People are just choosing to revolt, and that is their legitimate right. They're only his words. You know, I agree, destroying public property is not nice. It's criminal behavior. But so is shooting a boy in the head. That is not just criminal behavior, it is outrageous state violence. And you cannot just pin that on migrants and blame minorities for that. Minorities cannot just set fire to entire French cities. That is ridiculous. This is an attempt to veer away from the core issue and just blame minorities. And what many of these racists and extremists don't tell you is that this anger in France has been fermenting and accumulating for years. You had the Yellow Vest protests, the demonstrations against the pension reforms, poverty, inflation, racism, and now the killing of this boy is the last straw. No one in France or Europe has the right to use the word invader and talk about hordes. Please, the only invaders here are the French who colonized Africa, colonized the Middle East, and colonized the countries of these migrants. They are the ones who created the refugees from Libya, the refugees from Syria, and elsewhere. On récolte ce qu'on sème. You reap what you sow.